All right, welcome to the first episode of the What's Your Opinion podcast series. My name is Landon Buford, and our first guest is South African actress Sarah Kozlowski, and she is currently featured in the Netflix series The Agent as Zoe Zante. How are you doing today, Sarah?
Good. Nice to see you and connect with you again. Hi, everyone.
It's been a while. It's been maybe about a year and a half, maybe 2 years.
Exactly.
So, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being my first guest.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited. I really am.
And I guess we'll go ahead and get started. My first question is, you play Zoe Zante on the television series Agent, which is featured on Netflix.
It's currently on Netflix.
What are some of the things that you did to prepare for this role? And did you understand the character? And I understand the character is based on a true story.
Yeah, it is. So she is based on a South African Greek woman who, true story, she had kind of inherited a football team from her family, and she took it over. And I don't know if you know much about Greek women and Greek people and Greek families. They're pretty tough, and they're tough as nails. And the story goes is that she really, really, really made this team a success. But under the veil of that she was a woman in African football, and everyone was like, what is this? This is crazy. And she really had the nails and the guts and the chutzpah, it's a nice Greekish word, to actually get it done. And she turned it into a massive success. So the character was based on this woman. And my character, Zoe Zante, owns a football team, an African football team, and doesn't stand for any crap from her players, which are full of crap.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the gist of her. She's, getting into that role, I am a no-nonsense woman anyway, I got to admit. So that was easy. I just had to channel that type of my personality. And the funny part is that I was a redhead for so many years, 10, 15 years. And to play a Greek character, you can't really have red hair because there's two types of Greek genetics. There's the Greeks that were more inherently on the islands, the Greek islands back in the day. You will get a blonde Greek with light eyes. That genetic code has come through in generations, but you're never going to get really, really a redhead Greek person. So I was like, guys, I'm happy to dye my hair. Otherwise, it's not going to be true. And they were like, thank you so much. Please, nothing but red. So I actually auditioned with a dark wig because I knew, I was like, oh, this red hair might be a little bit unbelievable for a Greek character. And then I ended up saying, oh, no, let's definitely go blonde. So I've been blonde for a while now because of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know you're a huge boxing fan.
Boxing junkie. Fan is like too much of a relaxed.
I was being modest.
I'm a super fan.
I guess, how excited were you to play this role, being that you are a big sports fan, and it's you're being a sports owner in this
it's
project.
Really cool. I kind of like the best sports character I ever watched was Tom Cruise in where he's a sports agent. He plays that agent.
It's not Major League Baseball. It's been a while since I've seen that movie.
Well, he has and everyone that's watching this is like, oh, come on, it's that movie.
Hold on, let me look it up.
Okay, so, and then there's a famous line in that movie where he's like, the girl says, you had me from hello, with Renee Zellweger. I'll never forget that.
I know the line. We got to figure out what it is.
Got to figure it out. Are you Googling it? Because I'll Google it too.
Yep.
This is so funny.
Jerry Maguire.
And your viewers are funny. Like, thank you. So Jerry Maguire, I thought that sports agent was prolific, that character that he played, and just kind of, because everybody sees the sports star, but nobody actually gets the sports agent and that side of the whole dynamic. And as an actor, I also have agents. So it's a whole other side of it that, because without our agents, we are nothing. We really put so much of our life and faith into these people that represent us. So that, from that angle, I was super excited as being a sports fan, and always being curious, like, I wonder what a sports agent is like, because I've always been dealing with talent agents. Mm-hmm. And I kind of wanted to channel that Jerry Maguire, because he was so awesome. So she's got a real quirky side, Zoe Zante on the show Agent. She's got this there's just parts of her are really superstitious, and she's got to have like her Greek lucky coin from her father, and she's got some real quirky never say die. Oh no, she'll rather bury herself nose first into the ground than say, okay, I surrender. So it was really cool.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, I wish I had this closer, but what is the difference in auditioning for Netflix compared to other companies that you've worked with in the past? Because we hear things, so I want to get somebody that's that knows to talk about it to set the record straight.
I think every time you're auditioning for like a bigger project, your nerves will get the better of you. And I was really lucky that I had auditioned with this casting director before. So we had a really good rapport, and I had, so, I mean, sometimes if you, as an actor, if you go in an audition with a casting director that you may not have had the best audition there previously, or she doesn't know you, or he doesn't know you, and you're in there for the first time, you've got these mental things like, oh, I really need to bring my A game. And it's the same thing in any life. You can walk into a job interview or circumstances and be like, okay, this is A game time, as opposed to any other meeting or any other audition. But that's with years of practice, because I've been doing this a while, that's what cuts. And I'm in LA now. There's so much talent, so many actors. Why do some actors work and break through and some don't? Because they've been able, with so much experience and practice, to hone that adrenaline, that mental battle in your mind before you go into an audition. Oh, I'm not good enough. Oh my gosh, this person in the room in the waiting line with me is much better than me, or all that rubbish that we tell ourselves. That's probably the only reason half the actors in this that you see got where they got, because they were able to actually go, you know what, turn off that voice in their head and just bring their A game. And I will say I was very lucky. I had auditioned for this casting director before, and I booked work through this casting director before. So and I also just knew I was perfect for her. I just knew it. I walked in there and I said to the casting director, I'm like, I am perfect for this role. And she's like, I know, right?
Those are always the best, when you know that you're perfect for the role and then you go out and knock it out.
Yeah.
I've heard, people say that, I didn't have a great audition, but they ended up getting the role because they impressed the director and the hiring people with their personality more than what their talent is, and vice versa, where they've gone out and knocked it out and blown people away. So, I
mean, I used to teach some of my acting students back in South Africa. When you get those butterflies in your stomach, that tension is actually the most valuable tool you'll ever have, because tension on camera, if it's channeled the right way, is the most beautiful thing to watch. Tension when you're about to give a big address to thousands of people, channeled the right way, is the most beautiful thing to watch, because you go from being flat to something is happening and we don't know what it is, and why can we not stop looking at this person? Because you've channeled such a powerful energy. I mean, those butterflies are like, that is a powerful physical force that is going on in your body. Nerves, tension, anxiety. If you can just channel it for your advantage, the whole game changes, and everything that you're doing becomes alive. I think it's the same as a sports star. If you use that adrenaline to run faster, to be more focused and present on the field, it's like a free drug.
Mm-hmm. I mean that's pretty much your adrenaline rush is, you know, sky high when you're on the basketball court, being a you know, elite athlete, elite actress, elite actor, and whatever else, you know, other industries that you're in. If you're at the top of your game, that adrenaline rush is like no other.
Yeah, you've spoken to so many sports stars in your career doing what you're doing. So maybe they say the same thing. You're right.
It depends on who you're talking to, and you know, sometimes we get, you know, close enough to ask one question and that, you know, that's it. But yeah, I mean, sometimes I still get nervous when you're asking, you know, certain questions, because it's like, well, how are they going to react to this?
Yeah,
and how's the vibe of the conversation going with other people saying this, and how is it going to break up what their mindset is too? So I mean, it kind of, you pick and choose things.
You get nervous because you're human. It's only
exactly.
If you didn't, you'd be a robot, and nobody would want anything to do with you.
Exactly. You have some other projects in post-production, such as West Is It, The Colonials, and another one called Alexa, which is completed already. How has the COVID-19 pandemic, I guess, from an actor's perspective, hurt the industry and in the production of some of those projects for you personally?
It is a great question, because everybody can relate around the whole world. We're all dealing with the same thing. So Colonials is a cool sci-fi film that we wrapped probably about 6 months before the pandemic broke out. And I know that in a way they've been able to just knuckle down and do post-production on that film while the world shut down. So that should be coming out any second. So that one was lucky. The rest were kind of similar situations, but there was a show that I actually ended up turning down because it just wasn't, my heart wasn't in it, and it was very, very dark. And I'm all for some of those really dark shows out there, but it just wasn't for me. And it was really, really hard to do, because coming out of COVID, it doesn't really matter where you are in your career, huge superstar or starting out, saying no to work is a hard thing to do, because you really just don't know what the future holds. And this was kind of really in the middle of the pandemic, and it's calmed down a little bit now. But so we would have started shooting in a month from now in Hungary and Atlanta. And all productions completely ceased. This was going to be a brand new production and would have started as soon as the travel bans were lifted. But what I can tell from the industry at the moment is love scenes have been put on a hold for
which makes sense.
Health reasons. And background work, they won't be shooting for a while massive scenes with hundreds of people on set. So lots of background actors won't be there. But the rest of it, as long as they're following really strict hygiene rules and testing, I think most productions are just slowly starting to come back into production.
I guess this wasn't a question, but since you mentioned it, love scenes, how authentic are some of those compared to, I guess, other things, or how staged is it? How
That's a good question, and I'm going to tell you straight up, it's so staged. This is why the casting is so serious about chemistry between two actors, because if you get two actors that have real chemistry, and you don't have to be, I had a love scene with a guy that I had not romantic chemistry, but he was such a good friend of mine, and I had real love for him. I'd known him for so long that the chemistry was amazing. But I've had done love scenes with people where it is literally so robotic and so, because there is no vibe. I mean, when there's a vibe, there's a vibe. When there's not a vibe, there's no vibe. You know,
Exactly.
it is what it is. So I think chemistry, if it's a type of project where the core underlying message of the story, that the story is being driven by the chemistry and the love and the intimacy between two actors, casting based on chemistry could literally get you the role.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's just like a side thing, it's not, as
The main focus, yeah.
Yeah. So, honey, it's pretty staged.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know we watch it and we go, oh my God, it's so romantic. It's so amazing. Oh, my butterflies. It's so funny because that's not what the music is happening, the lighting, there's a story, there's stakes,
It's
and
so
you believe
Hollywood.
it, but it's not really the case.
I got you. You've also had a strong interest in entrepreneurship. I mean, I mentioned that earlier. You also started your own venture capital business with a partner.
Mm-hmm.
How is that taking a hit with this COVID-19 pandemic as well?
So, again, a great question. My VC company we bet against some stuff that turned out to be really good now. And I really am just one of those people that I'm like, this isn't me. I'm not a lucky person. I just I believe in God, and I assimilate a lot of my success to God and being in the right time in the right place. And so we put investments down into a private airline, chartered airline, which actually during the travel ban was still allowed because it was so small and confined and things like that, and has taken interest in this company, has taken off since COVID because people don't want to be stuck on massive airplanes with strangers and things like that. I'm obviously talking about this type of people that can afford it.
Right.
So those types of investments have done very, very well because of COVID. They would have done well regardless, but they're doing extra well. And another type of stuff that we looked at was some fintech stuff, some blockchain stuff. And we got involved there. And that's also done really, really well because of the fact of a lot of currencies and a lot of Forex has really taken a tumble. The South African rand, for example, is in the toilet. The dollar really is in a bit of a wobbly space too. So that being said, a lot of people have turned their attention to alternative bets like being Bitcoin and things like that. They're more open-minded to it and what the future may hold, especially now with the Fed printing so much money. People are like, I might as well just buy some Bitcoin because you never know what's going to happen.
Exactly.
It has really been successful during this time, and it's given it an extra boost. So I know that's not the case for a lot of things. If you're a restaurateur, my heart goes out to you. And there's a lot of other industries like that. But I do feel, and I do believe that it's going to be okay. We're all going to suffer in the short term, but it's a short-term thing. So yeah, that's kind of what happened.
I know that the restaurant industry is getting slammed. I know that journalism is getting slammed too. So I mean, that's why we're doing more video.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So we know that the big companies have been, hat tipping everybody because they're not doing work anymore. They're just collecting content from everybody else. So that's pretty much that right now. But I mean, I think we'll come back. I know here, I don't think we're fully open. I mean, I know restaurants are coming back. You can go and sit down and things of that nature, but there's still people that are not willing to just go out and just sit for obvious reasons. How have you been able to navigate through that industry? Through being venture capitalist, being that obviously it's more geared towards men than it is for women.
Again, not a bad question. It is still very a male-dominated industry. A lot of the conferences and the main chief investment officers, directors, counsel, it's still pretty male-dominated. And you've got to be the type, if you want to go into that arena, you've got to be the type of female that's not going to bother you. Otherwise, you're going to have a tough time. So if being around predominantly male energy is not where you feel you're most comfortable, you're not going to thrive, and you're not going to do your best. So luckily, I have always been very alpha in the sense of on the female side. So dealing with a bunch of alpha males for me has never been a problem. And I do still know, and unfortunately, it's still the time we live in, when you've got to tone down your alpha and when it can soar, because there's still that, there is some individuals out there that are still kind of like, I'm the male, I'm the boss. So that being said, it was interesting. And one of the very first jobs I ever had was a little bit more medical orientated. And it was the same thing there, because all the doctors that I used to deal with were male. And that's actually changed a little bit in the last 10 years. But yeah, you've got to know that as long as you stand your ground in a way that is not know your shit. Know your shit, know your facts, and speak up as much as you can when the time is right. Quite frankly, because to just be silent the whole time and to not feel that you can speak up, the reactions you'll get when you know your stuff is going to be so incredibly positive, as opposed to when you just didn't say anything.
Or you're just saying stuff, just to say it, and you don't. It's not factual.
And I think that goes for men and women. It really doesn't make differences. If you want to shine through, you got to know your stuff, eh?
Yeah, I know in our industry, a lot of stuff gets said just because they're looking for, I guess the word term now is clout nowadays. So they'll just say anything just to get a reaction out of people. So I understand where you're coming from as that goes. What advice would you give women looking to get in to become venture capitalists? Just starting out, things of that nature. Like what would you tell them to avoid certain things, or what to look out for, things of that nature?
Okay, so the one thing about VC is it's all about sell, sell, sell. If you can't sell, doesn't matter if you're pitching or you're the shark, you're the shark in the Shark Tank and you're receiving the pitches. If you don't have an aggressive energy and know how to sell, because there's one thing I'll tell you this: people don't want to put their money where there is emotional instability. So I'm not saying as women we're emotionally unstable at all, but we feel empathy far more deeply. So for us to get to a point of being emotional is so much easier and so much more natural. But that's, even as a woman, I don't want to put my money where, because emotions, like, you can't invest and make investment decisions based on emotion, and you can't trade stocks, forex every day based on emotion. It's an emotionless job, especially when you're not dealing with the people side. When it's just about the numbers and it's just about trading, behind a computer all day, which is, there's a lot of that world too. There's no emotion. So when you want to get into the finance game as a woman, there's place for emotion, and then there's a time where you've just got to, there is no place for the emotion, especially when you want people to trust you with their money, because they're emotional, because they're parting with something.
You said it, not me.
Investors are emotional. They're emotional creatures. They don't want to see the people that they're giving their money to emotional too. So that's probably the best advice I can give, because I am a woman and I cry once a day. I'm not saying all women do that. I just do. I'm just like that. I'll cry at a commercial. I'll cry at the news. I just am happy to express and feel my own emotions. But I've learned that I can't really let that happen and take over in the finance arena.
I mean, emotions get ahead of you anywhere nowadays. You show them, and they'll, depending on what level within the company you are, they'll just let you go with no questions asked.
I know, which is so sad, because I love emotions, and I think that's why I love being an actor, because we'll go to acting class or we'll go to rehearsals, and it's all about, we just cry and we just scream and we just feel everything. So it's a really nice balance for me to go into meetings with lawyers, accountants, and fund managers and be very straight-laced, and then I'll end up the next day on a set, and it's all about just feels. It's just feels. Everyone's feeling. So, yeah.
Any amount that somebody could start off with, as far as what's a good amount to invest in something from at the ground level? I mean, like if you're just
my
just
best
starting.
advice to anybody who wants to invest is invest what you can do without. Never invest a cent that is responsible for your rent, for your bills, for anything like that. If you want to start investing, start saving first, and then take that and start doing your research and using that amount. So that number could effectively be anything. Okay. It could be $500, $1,000, $10,000. But and then the other thing I would suggest is to also just know your risk appetite. So if your risk appetite is someone that's like, I'm keen to go on a big holiday this December somewhere. I've got 6 months for this investment to materialize. I'm going to go for more risky investments, so that riskier investments are generally the ones that are more short term. It's not always, but it's generally. Then that's your risk appetite, but you're fully well aware that it is more risky. But I want the quick payout and the bigger payout, so I'm going to go that way. So check your risk appetite and never invest anything that you can't live without.
Oh, okay.
Rather go to the casino then.
Well, I got people that I know that prefer to go to the casino instead of investing.
The house always wins. The house always wins.
They'll get your house. They've got your house too. They've gotten people's houses that I know of. They've invested their mortgage at the casino, at the blackjack table.
Yeah. The road to hell was paved with good intentions.
Exactly. I guess over the last couple of weeks, obviously it's all over the news, the protesting, the riots, etc. How have you been able, or what have you learned during this time, I guess, personally?
Okay, now we're getting real. I don't know if I can swear on this show of yours, but it's been, I can't really explain what I'm feeling and what I'm seeing, and I'm a white person. So the energy and the degree of the heightened emotions that is in Los Angeles, and I'm sure every major city in America, is unreal. Coming off of the severe fear and uncertainty of COVID into something that just has struck into the heart of so many people. Let me tell you, 2020 has been a shit year, but let it be so shit that there's a change. Right. That something happens, because that video of Mr. Floyd passing I had a very physical and visceral reaction to it. I saw Aubrey, the gentleman that was shot running in the neighborhood, Ahmed. I saw that and I was devastated. But something about that video with George, like I literally was retching to vomit. And that's exactly how everybody else felt. And for the first time, something in me went, something must be done. I don't know what I can do. And that's what everybody's sitting. I don't know what I can do. And it's slowly becoming apparent. It's not about that. It's about simply standing in solidarity. Because also there's a post, I'll read it to you on Instagram, that I put up. And basically, the bottom line is this: you'll see systemic racism happening anywhere, all day, everywhere in the world. But you kind of just go, meh, because you go, well, I'm not a racist. So I'm just going to carry on with my life. And this has somehow turned that on its head, because the narrative right now that I can see and feel is that if you're doing that, you are the problem. And I never saw it like that before. I never did. And now I'm going, oh, exactly, because it's 2020. How can this still be happening? It's because people like me go, oh yeah, there's these cops seem to be quite racist. But what am I going to do about it?
Or what can I do about it?
What can I do about it? Exactly. So to answer your question and to end with this, there's a great documentary which I'm pretty sure you've seen called 13th, about the American prison system. And I saw a friend of mine, she posted, people, we need to watch this. And I watched it and I basically said, if you're a white millennial like me, we unfortunately suffer from a very real problem of cluelessness. We cannot hide behind this veil any longer. And I come from South Africa, which I'll explain. We cannot hide behind this veil any longer. We have the responsibility to educate ourselves. It's not the government's responsibility or society's responsibility. It's only ours. I'm a South African, and as a child, I was taught a very watered down version of my country's history in school. The real hideous truth and nature of the beast only became so evident as I got much older. I was so protected. I grew up in such a protected, wonderful bubble. I was so clueless. And now I live in America, and I will not let that happen again. I will make it a mission to know the truth, to know the history, to know the other side of the story, because I can never truly understand the generational pain of a Black person, but I can try. That's all I can do. And the only way to do that is to learn. And then I thanked her for that recommendation.
Okay, so we're back. We had a little technical difficulties. But I guess the UFC made its return last month, if I'm not mistaken. And wrestling companies such as WWE, Impact Wrestling, AEW, and some other sports overseas have been operating in locations without fans. Some of those have been pre-taped. I don't know about the UFC, but the wrestling part has been pre-taped. And I think the other sports overseas are still live. But obviously the NBA just announced that they're coming back. How excited are you for that? And how do you think that would affect them as fans? Because obviously they thrive on that energy to either come back in games or just blow people out pretty much. So
I did watch a couple UFC fights live without an audience, no fans. Crazy. The guys, it's just my opinion. I mean, they still give it their all, but they're not as amped. They're a lot more friendly with each other. It's weird. It's because it almost, I think, resembles for them in a fight scenario like a sparring match, a friendly. So that was the one thing I picked out. Then I watched a NASCAR because that was the other only event that kind of happened without an audience. That kind of seemed the same to me. I'm not the biggest NASCAR fan, but it was still nice to see stuff going on without an audience. As for NBA, that's going to be a tough one because I'm guessing the same thing might happen again without the crowd, the live crowd. There's just the guys still play their guts out on those courts, but I don't know. Let's see. I don't know what to expect. So, yeah, and I wonder, I don't know, because everyone's different. Some people are super, super stressed about Corona. Some people are not. It's so personal. So maybe some guys are freaking out because they are really close to other guys. Maybe they're not. I don't know. You know, I mean, for UFC, it's full contact. So they got tested, but I'm pretty certain that if anybody had anything in UFC, you're going to catch it. So yeah, you never really know what goes through these guys' minds unless you're them. I don't know.
And I know that they announced that they have to do tougher testing for the UFC, because I know one of the I didn't watch this last I think it was UFC 49 if I'm not mistaken, or UFC 250, but I heard that one of the fighters had to be withdrawn because of COVID, and it happened right before the match. So they said that they're going to crack down and have more stricter testing testing methods and things of that nature. So,
oh my goodness, I do know that I can't remember names today. I am like losing my mind. One Russian fighter
mhm.
could not come. I kind of thought it was travel bans, but I think you're right. I think it's because he might have tested positive. Interesting.
So yeah, no. So
Look, I'm on set next week, and they were saying at this juncture they just wanted us to sign something saying that we had not been exposed or had any symptoms, and to the best of our knowledge had not been exposed. So
are they
yeah,
also having
that
you guys
seems,
sign waivers just in case something happens on the set? That's
if somebody
ridiculous.
gets corona and they're like, I got it from you, I'm like I feel fine.
I mean, have they talked about the testing methods, because they're going to have to do the same thing, just like sport athletes are going to swabs and
Yeah.
put the thing in your nose and things of that nature. So
Yeah, this is a very small set, this particular job. So it's very small, and the scenes do not require a lot of very close intensity.
mhm.
So maybe that's the only reason they're not doing testing,
Okay.
but they're just doing these waivers. But I will gladly report back as to what that was like. Maybe we're like every time before it's like this action. So before action, it's a mask. Action, rap, 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 and then cut, mask back on. I don't know what it's going to be like.
Okay.
I'll let you know. I'll let you know.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess, man, how is that gonna that's gonna
I don't know. I don't think anybody knows. That's the thing about this whole pandemic, is like everyone's just trying to do the best. Everyone's just trying to do the best.
I have a friend she's also an actress and she also is a musician.
Yeah.
And she was like, "Well, my music is done, but putting out the music videos, I don't know when that's gonna happen. I might throw out some songs soon, but like basically she owns everything, so she can put it out when she wants to. But what she was saying is, I don't know when I'm going to put stuff out, because I wanted the music videos to roll out just like the songs are gonna roll out. So
It's tough for her.
so
Yeah, the whole entertainment industry has been. The good side is it that people are consuming content like crazy. So
right.
all your series have been binge watched, and everybody's like, "Oh, we need content." So everyone's rearing to shoot. But yeah, we're gonna have to take it one day at a time. That's all you can do.
That's crazy.
I know, right?
That's something that you can't do remotely. Like you
No,
can't.
no,
That's
no.
not.
Ah,
Uh,
funny.
a couple years ago, I think it was 2017. You were on a show called Speed Stars. You
Uh-huh.
were
Okay.
playing a role as a race car driver.
Uh-huh.
How familiar are you with cars, race cars in particular? And if you are, what is I guess, how am I gonna put this? What is your kryptonite?
So, Speed Stars was actually a show where well-known South African personalities, celebrities, raced against each other around a racetrack. And there was various like things we had to do and games we had to play and tests we needed to do. But the whole point was who's going to be the ultimate Speed Star champion at the end of it. I did receive second fastest time
Mm-hmm.
of the show. I did not win, but second, I think is still cool. And I personally don't have massive race experience, but I love to watch racing. So I do enjoy F1. And my ultimate still to this day is Niki Lauda. Just something about him, and it's like these F1 guys. They become such personalities, because it's, even though I get it, you got a whole team, but for
Mm-hmm.
me, I still don't think F1's a team sport. It's just you alone in that car.
Right.
For me, and I know there's like, your pit is so important, whatever. But for me, I just feel like it's a very solitude, isolated sport. It's just
Mm-hmm.
you. So these drivers, you become so obsessed with their personalities and who they are because they're so isolated.
Mm-hmm.
And Niki Lauda for me was, just absolutely loved him. Like if I had met a very German person, I don't know if I've become best friends with them, but if I was going to back a racer, and there's nothing wrong with German people, but they are very militant personalities. They're very precise. They're very, and I'm just like very like, blah, blah, blah. So, even though I have a German friend, it's so funny. But if I'm going to back an F1 driver, I'm going to probably go for a German because he was so German. And yeah, I just loved him and I loved his whole story. And I think he was, he really just loved the sport so much.
Being that you have a background in marketing as well, do you feel like, because it seems like NASCAR, I mean, I know Dale Earnhardt Jr., his father, Jeff Gordon, and a couple others, but I mean, at the end of the day, over the last 10 years, it seems like Danica, prior to her retiring, it was pretty much, she wasn't winning, but everybody knew who she was from the GoDaddy commercials. They were selling her sex appeal and things of that nature, which, I mean, some of the people out there obviously enjoyed. But do you think that was the right strategy for them? Not, obviously she became a star that way, but do you think like they should have promoted other people? And I don't know too many F1 guys. So do you think that what do you think that they should do possibly in marketing that sport in general towards other people? I guess you can say.
You're talking about NASCAR?
NASCAR and F1, because I don't. All I know is Andretti, I think it is, and other than that, I don't know many. I don't know many
I think if you're into F1, you become super obsessed with these drivers. So there is some marketing to be done, but it doesn't require much. Danica's a different story because she was, like you said, she wasn't winning. She wasn't the best driver in the whole world, but she was a first.
Right.
She was a pioneer, or she was one of the recognized female pioneers in that sport, and that was the angle. So if anything, anything I know about marketing and PR especially is what's the angle. And if you have an angle, then use it to the best that you can and let that be your fuel, because that's just how the nature of that beast works. Sometimes even as actors, some people that were great and would have been great for the role won't get booked because they want a name. They want the biggest name in the world to do it because it's just going to sell more tickets. Right. And it's the same as Conor McGregor as an example. Like, I love Conor. I really do. I got to go see him fight Mayweather in Vegas. One of the best nights of my life. But like for me, I don't think Conor's the best. He says he's the best. He says he's the best every chance he gets. I think he's incredible. But he's just so good at keeping himself current and putting himself out there. And the pre-game of the fights, he's just on it and he's hustling and he's getting his opponent riled up. And then he's got a whiskey. And then, so if you said to me, do you want to go see the best fighter in the world or do you want to go watch a Conor fight? What am I going to spend my money on? I want to go to a Conor fight. Yeah.
And when Mayweather wasn't retired, they keep saying he wants to come back and fight Pacquiao again, but I don't think that's going to sell, to be honest.
I don't think so either. No.
I don't, not as much as, well, they took us for 300 million, combined. So I don't think that that's going to be something that people want to watch a second time.
No. Yeah, I think that was definitely a one-off type thing. If Conor ever convinced Mayweather to do a rematch, I would go and watch that again just because he has the gall to do it. And I just probably then would want to see Mayweather kick his ass again. And this is so funny because I'm a Conor fan and I was rooting for Conor in the stands, but I'm just like...
Well, and that's why they wanted Floyd in a UFC ring. But if he does that, he said he was serious, but that's not something.
For me, it's a different animal. professional boxing and UFC are different animals. That's my opinion, completely. It's literally like asking an Olympic swimmer to now go run the 400. It's like...
Right, exactly. And he could be really damaged because he hasn't been training for that his whole career. And even if he does, it's not it's like oranges to apples type of thing. So and I guess
go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
But I would be so curious to see what the boxing statistics and ratings have how much they've gone low. Can I speak English today, please? How much they've dropped since the massive rise of UFC. I'd just be curious to kind of know those stats. I know that it has happened, but I don't know the actual stats.
I know boxing. I mean, unless you have a big name like Floyd or Pacquiao when he was there. I know Canelo and Triple G and things of that nature. I just know names. I don't. But
they're all good names to know.
Exactly. But as far as that, I mean, outside of that, there's not that many boxing matches. Earl Spence, but we don't know if he's going to come back the same after his car accident here in Dallas. He says he's fine. They say he's fine, but I was talking to a former professional boxer, and he said it doesn't matter what they say and how recovered he is. He's still gonna be missing a step possibly. So after a car accident like that. So I mean,
yeah, wow.
I mean, but UFC, you got people that are still, even on the women's side, you got people that are coming up every day. People, Ronda Rousey will still be a draw if she decides to go back. She's doing the WWE thing, but she'll still be a draw just because of her name. So I mean,
I really, my heart started, my first love was boxing. It really was, and I'll never take that away. But I do the UFC. I mean, once you get blood numb, it's almost like the first couple times you watch a UFC, you gotta go, oof, oh my, can't look. And eventually you watch enough games that you become numb to it. So it's almost like the brain mapping of the brain. It's like they say, the more cocaine you take, the more you need.
Yeah, exactly.
And now I'm watching a boxing match and I'm still loving it because it really is an art form. But I'm like, I need some more guts spilling on the floor. Because I'm so used to watching teeth flying, eyes popping in UFC. So it's crazy.
I think I guess like NFL players are switching back and forth. Greg Hardy just I think he left the Cowboys and went into MMA. So I think it's
oh yeah, he did, yeah.
So I don't know how the transitioning is with a lot of these NFL players, but once they retire, it seems like they're going into.
I heard that it's a huge. There's going to be a big exodus of NFL guys. Yeah, that's the same thing I heard. And I don't know if it's because it's a marketing strategy by Dana White, or what it is, because they're already well known, or who knows, that they do have the right temperament and stature for the sport. But I mean, you've got to you need some training in that art. I mean, because it's a lot of like martial art, floor work, blah, 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 blah. You can't just pick it up.
You got to have some type of training in there, wrestling.
Yeah, you've got to be at it for years beforehand. So I don't know if these NFL guys are training on the side while they're in the NFL. That would make sense.
Well, to be honest with you, I mean, I know you say you're not you don't physically in the boxing the last time we spoke, but they actually use that to get in shape for some of the stuff, to get in shape, to get into football shape and stuff like that too.
And also it's contact. So the more full contact stuff they do, the more better they are at receiving and giving full contact, I suppose.
Right. And they're all different jujitsus and karate and all types of stuff. So you don't know. I mean, like you said, they're on a football field, and you don't know what type of moves they're using with their hands to get by people. You know what I mean? That you don't see on TV. You know what I mean? So
yeah, that's so true.
So back when you could use martial arts to actually break somebody's hand, on the football field and people didn't know other than the players that were playing. It was, I guess it was a good strategy on how to get to the quarterback and things of that nature. So
yeah.
So
what's your favorite sport to play?
Basketball.
Okay, got it.
Basketball. Football. I'm like Kurt Warner when it comes to that. He's not even going to let his kids play football, and he's a Super Bowl champion and a Hall of Famer. So that's telling me something.
No, I get it completely. My mother didn't let my brother play South African rugby in high school.
Isn't it basically the same thing? I mean, like, is the concussion rate worse in rugby than it is in football? I mean, American football.
I don't know, but I do know that there's no protective padding in rugby.
Right.
So that doesn't necessarily mean you're more protected, because the padding, being hit with the padding, is worse than being hit with than just the shoulder, if that makes sense.
Right.
But when you're the one getting hit and you've got padding to protect, then that's better, in a helmet. So yeah, in rugby there's nothing. There's no helmet. There's no protection whatsoever, but it is still full contact. So I don't know which is worse, but there has been a lot of cases of South African high school boys ending up with broken necks.
Because I know they're using that as the CTEs in football. Like, it's like, well, they're doing studies with rugby, and it's like, it's pretty much the same. It's just you have a helmet on, pretty much.
Yeah, which was good. For me, like, protect the brain. The brain is the
most important organ.
Yeah. So, yeah, I have no issue with mothers or people that, like, even like yourself, that's like, no, I don't want to put my skull full speed into something. It's not my vibe. If it's your vibe, cool. But if it's not, and you don't have a helmet on, don't do it.
Right. And that's why you can't complain about people, like players. Why is he retiring after 8 years? You don't know what they're talking about as far as their bodies and stuff like that. This person's so young.
And these sports stars cannot be fully honest with the degree of any of their injuries, because then they become less attractive to be traded, less attractive to be drafted, less attractive for anything.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
And you could have one injury and you're going contract to contract. Isaiah Thomas went from an MVP candidate in Boston to signing 1-year contracts, and now he's not on a team right now. So, I mean, it's injuries and things of that nature. So, I don't know.
Just, you're so, it's not disposable, but it can change like that. It can just change. It's a very interesting lifestyle and life choice.
I'm surprised in baseball there's not enough. I mean, well, knock on wood, right? But there's not more head injuries because of the ball, people targeting people, things of that nature. I'm surprised there's not more head injuries than possible. I mean, than you would think is the issue.
Yeah, there was it's not really big in the States, but in high school in Europe and South Africa, because South Africa is a British colony and European colony, they play hockey, but the women play hockey. So there's ladies hockey, and there is no protective headgear, and a hockey stick to the mouth and those hockey balls to the mouth, especially when you're swinging back, and you've got to get really close because you're defending, and it's like football. You're trying to fight for the ball, and effectively the amount of girls who broke their noses, lost their teeth. I'm really glad I didn't play hockey then, because I might have had issues later in my career path.
Well, I know. Here, there is a professional hockey teams, women hockey teams, but unless you're going to search for them, they're in the same situation as the NBA. I mean, I'm sorry, not the NBA, the WNBA.
Yeah.
They're fighting for, equal pay, and people say, well, you're not selling out arenas, so the investment, and you got to invest to build up the league. So it's kind of
it's crazy. The thing is, like, female UFC fighters have the same clout to sell tickets,
right.
and female tennis stars to a certain
Right.
degree. But
Mm-hmm.
the rest, nah, not
Mm-hmm.
much. It's crazy.
I think now, if I'm not mistaken, they tripled or doubled the pay salary of the WNBA.
Hmm.
I think the top players can get 300,000. I think now,
Yeah.
for compared to, I think the highest players were getting 117,000 last year.
That's not a lot.
I know. Well, well, somebody like myself,
Yeah.
we
Well,
can
I mean, it's
survive on
money.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
we
I
can.
get
But I know, not to get into too many details, but one of the biggest supporters, I know. Well, I'll just mention her name. Skylar Diggins last year. Um, she just blasted the Dallas Wings, the trader, but they gave her full salary. They were only able, legally only able, while she was on paternity leave. They were only legally able to give her half. So you're yelling and screaming about how the team didn't support you and all this other stuff, but they gave you your full salary all year and let you walk around, not talk to media and everything, do your thing.
That's great. That is
But
something, that's a step in the right direction. Come on, that's a huge plus to be
yeah,
able to be paid while you're on maternity leave.
right. And to have your full salary, I
Yeah,
mean, compared to only giving you half of that, I mean, plus you're getting endorsements. She getting endorsements, but I
yeah.
mean, they didn't have to. They could have said, "I'm
No,
only
they
giving you
didn't.
half."
I'll agree with you. I don't. I agree with you. They didn't have to do that. Yeah, it's a funny thing. Hey, I haven't had kids yet. I plan to. I'm actually planning to start a family right as we speak.
Hmm.
So I can't talk from my own self story, what
Right.
it's like to be working with kids. So I get it. It's not easy, and there's all these things. So I have seen some efforts being made, especially in the corporate space, to accommodate women that want to start families and all of that. But yeah, I suppose it's a case by case thing. I don't know what it must be like for a sports team to lose a player but yeah, you're part of this team, and I don't know. I really don't know. But the world is certainly waking up, which is nice.
Hmm.
Yeah, and the thing about big changes, don't expect them overnight.
Right.
Expect them and force them to happen sooner rather than later. But if everything changes too quickly, too quickly, it never really works out for the best.
Hmm.
So change should be like a growing pain.
Hmm.
It should happen, and you should every single day learn something new about the new change. Than saying, okay, here's the plan, we're going to do this and go. It never really works out.
Exactly. And I think trying to, that's why they said, it's still not where they want to go. It's better than the last collective bargaining agreement that they had. Because I know Diana Taurasi said that she felt like it would, they were, um, what's the word I'm looking for? Not goaded, but pretty much forced into the collective bargain agreement. It was a bad deal. Now that now that they feel like they have a better one. Obviously, these deals don't always go as planned, but it's a step in the right direction. The
Mm.
NFL just had that too. There's stuff that some people had to agree with, but they did it because of COVID. I think if it was not for COVID-19, they probably would have went in a different direction. But they figured that let's take the money that we can and go from there.
Mm. Yeah. So, have you started seeing sports coming back online?
Yes, as far as I know the NBA's gonna start in Orlando. I think it's here shortly. The 20 it's like 22 teams format, 8 games
Mm-hmm.
before they start the playoffs for playoff seeding purposes. But for people like the other 8 teams that are not there, they could say that, well, they had the opportunity to be there, but you kind of feel bad for Vince Carter
Mm.
because he's going to retire. Well, if he said he's done, so basically he played his last game back in March, on March 13th or March 12th or whatever it was. So that's tough how to see someone of his caliber go out, but
Mm-hmm.
he says he's done. So I mean, it is what it is. I'm looking forward to it. I don't know what baseball's doing. I know the NHL said they were canceling their season, then they said they're back on. Baseball's not agreeing to the collective bargaining. They're just like, well, why should we help the owners out this
Oh,
year? And there's not going to be any free agency, so there's not going to be any money, extra money. So you might have somebody that's a free agent that didn't even play for the team this year, and you can't go after them next year to re-sign them. So you basically traded assets away, and you're not getting a return on those assets. So
mm-hmm. Yeah, everyone's been hit with the stick of suffering with every industry with this stupid virus. It's like I just don't want to ever say the word COVID again. I've had saturation, COVID saturation now in the news, COVID saturation now. But we just got to hang tight and we got to stay positive and it's going to be okay. But I think, yeah, you just like, ugh, I'm so tired of COVID messing this up and messing that up. But there's always something good that can come from this. And even if it's like people working together that have never worked together before, or random things that you can't see now, but you'll see, and it'll be apparent in 3 months' time that would never have happened if COVID didn't happen. So that's my 2 cents worth and my preaching done about this.
final question before I let you go. Being that you do study the market, how long do you think it's going to take for us to recover some of the damages, I guess you could say financially, as far as these companies go? I mean, some of them, to be honest, I could care less if they go under, but they employ many different people. So they're looking to actually, this is how they make a living. So how long do you think this is possibly gonna, take? Are we talking 10 years to do this?
No, I definitely don't think so. I definitely don't think, because the winter in the market, this economic winter, is not going to be 6 months. It's not going to be years.
Mm-hmm.
The effects of it are here already, but we should be getting out of it just as quickly as it happened, is just as quickly as it should come up, because COVID very shortly, I believe, is going to be a thing of the past.
Mm-hmm.
Not in the sense of people are going to get back to work, they're going to do their masters, social distancing, blah, 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 whatever the case is that they need to do to get on with it, but they're going to get on with it. And a vaccine is going to come out almost very, very soon. And then, honestly, it's going to be normal life again. Are there going to be repercussions to the market? Have there already been? Absolutely. But because 2 months, it's going to be 3-4 months in total, is not that long.
Mm-hmm.
You extrapolate that period over the long term. If this was like, if there was a depression in trading in the markets for 2 years, it would take us 10 to 15 years to get out of it. But this is 2 months, and I think that if everybody just keeps calm and carries on, it's going to be a quicker recovery than you think.
Okay.
That's my opinion. I am not an economic strategist. I am not a macroeconomic analyst.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying this purely on a gut feel.
I guess, and then this will be the final question. You work in the entertainment industry. A lot of people are working from home now. On the journalistic side and things of that nature, people can work from home in some incidents. How do you think that will affect companies? Is the way that they pay you? Because obviously, if you can stay home, we don't have to pay you these two outlandish $300,000 to come into office.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that they'll downside offices? Do you think that they're gonna cut people's salaries? How do you think that might work?
So I can only talk from one example that's directly related to me. My sister-in-law is a very big advertising hotshot back in South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
She, like, think Mad Men type vibes. She's one of the Mad Men in the modern day. Works for a very big advertising firm that was doing very well up until COVID and has consistently done well for many years. when COVID happened and they all had to start working from home, they all did.
Mm-hmm.
And what has happened is they've, in
Hold
their
on, Sarah.
industry,
Mom, can you pick that out?
what has happened in their industry is they have realized that they can do just as good a job as with everyone working from home and potentially like meeting once, maybe twice a week, as opposed to everybody in an office. Their office expense was millions every month.
Right.
So now the advertising industry, she says in South Africa, maybe not in the US, but in South Africa, their agency, especially the smaller clients, just don't have the resources now to advertise.
Right.
And that being said, for the agency to survive, they're going to let go of the massive office overhead every month. So you're going to see things like that. You're going to see, I think salaries are going to be adjusted. Yeah, I do. Do I think people are going to be retrenched? Yeah, I do. But again, I don't think for as long as we think it's going to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I know in the past, people have asked you about voiceover work and also, I guess, ringtones. Is there anything in the works for any of those? Voiceover work in particular for you?
I actually haven't signed with a voiceover agent in Los Angeles. I did a lot of radio spots and voiceovers for TV commercials back home. It's something that I'd love to do. And I have a voice reel in various accents because obviously I don't think anyone in the US would recognize this accent selling them their product. They'd be like, why is it Australian? Or is that a South African? Or what is that? Is that a British person trying to sell me insurance or whatever it is? But yeah, so it's on the list.
Okay, because I think her name Susan Bennett was the original for what is it? The iPhone, Apple. So
She's
I know
well.
you wouldn't recognize her unless you went into her reels and things of that nature. So you wouldn't, that type of
I
thing.
think they bought her voice out, like she's not allowed to do anything else. I have a feeling.
Well, I know. What? So recently, or I mean, I know she was doing Delta Airlines.
Oh, really?
She did the original Delta Airlines. She also did the original iPhone, and I don't know what else she's been involved with, but I would have to go look at her credits and stuff like that. But I interviewed her about maybe 4 years ago now. It's been that long.
Yeah, they make good money.
Yeah, they do, and I know her son is trying to get into the business as well, but be easier. Mom paid the way, so you don't have to go through the growing pains that she went through.
Yeah, no, it's the whole thing is it's good to have your finger in all pies. You could probably even do it.
I've got to find the right agent though.
Yeah,
And it would have to be, depending on what they're asking me to do, because sometimes they have you guys doing stuff that is like, where is this going?
I had to do a voiceover of a crazy deranged hippie once. It's just then it's like you never know. It's very rare that you and I will get booked for the. They'll take the super experienced insurance pharmaceutical voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it'll have to be something that's like left field,
That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna cut off the recording.
Oh, we're still talking.
Oh yeah.